welcome back. I am now finally doing a time travel theory video again after so many months. I am Matthew Salzer. Thank you very much for watching. Now, I have already done a time travel theory episode on Star Trek, but I felt like with some recent events going on and me being reminded about certain recent events that I would cover a specific detail within Star Trek that a lot of people probably don't notice. Now, if you watch the original Star Trek series, there is a certain detail about the future that they predicted which did not come to pass, and that was that in the 1990s there was something called the Eugenics War. This war was where genetically modified individuals ended up taking over and doing mass exterminations, mass genocides against lesser beings, and ultimately, while normal humanity won in a World War III, people like Khan and several other of these genetically modified individuals ended up jumping on a ship and heading out into space. Eventually, we got the Khan episode, and then the Wrath of Khan, etc. However, as time went on, the eugenics wars got pushed back a little bit, and we saw that the 1990s was actually normal by the time of Voyager. There are also several other events that were pushed back as well or just didn't happen. For example, in Star Trek The Next Generation, it was mentioned in the 90s that something like cryosleep was a big thing. However, that was eventually phased out as well, and we didn't really hear about it again. Now, a lot of people would probably say that this was the result of retconning continuity errors, but before I go into anything, a little bit of review. So if you've watched my channel before, you know that I subscribe to two different time travel theories, one of which is the single theory, which is that when you time travel, you're literally jumping from point A to point B, or as I've labeled it, point 1 to 2. And then the second theory is the alternate reality theory, wherein you're not exactly jumping from point A to point B, you are jumping from timeline A to timeline B, and your timeline is intact, but the timeline that you're jumping to, you changed completely. Star Trek has done both of these. Former example would be the Enterprise C getting displaced from time, leading to an alternate timeline where the Klingons and the Federation are at war, and the latter example being the Kelvin timeline, where you have Star Trek Picard taking place in the Prime timeline and the Abrams verse taking place in the alternate timeline, and Spock jumping between them, of course. So in order for what I have been talking about to actually make sense, even though it's never been fully addressed, we have to subscribe to the single timeline theory. Now, as I said, in the single timeline theory, you've got, of course, the fact that you're jumping from point A to point B, and whatever you do here in point B is going to cause effects and could very well result in another different timeline, as Doc Brown put it in Back to the Future, or basically a timeline A. This ascribes to various theories like the butterfly effect, the ripple effect, anything that basically if you're in that timeline, you're changing it just by being there. Like I said, there are numerous time jumps within Star Trek. I could probably do an entire years worth of series just on Star Trek time jumps alone. So the assumption has to be that as they make those different time jumps, then the original series timeline has essentially been erased, and that what we have gotten has been this series of updated compilations of time jumps that have resulted in a timeline more resembling our own than the original Star Trek timeline, as I mentioned, where eugenics wars took place in the 80s. Instead, it was pushed up into the 2000s, and that seems to be relatively consistent. Again, this has not officially been made canon. This is just a theory that I hold to. Thank you much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought, what you would like to see next in the travel theory. Very much for Lover, who inspired this. Be sure to check out his channel as well. Also give him a like, share, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.